a bucket and a foul. Breakaway. Io.
Oh, meet me at the rim and don't be late.
Give me the hot sauce. Did you not get the memo? Derrick Rose can go upstairs. Oh, he's Gimme. The steal. Wait for the lead. Yeah.
Big time plays. Big time plays.
Gimme for the win. Go!
My God. I cannot believe it.
Hey, everybody. The NBA trade deadline is come and gone, and boy, were the Bulls busy. Timmy Whispers alongside Stacey King joins us from his home after talking with members of the front office. And what do you think in totality, Stacey? They moved a lot of furniture. I tell you what, a lot of players going out, a lot of players coming in, and they loaded up with second round draft picks. But just from my opinion, they're kind of the same team they were before in terms of the overall quality of the roster.
Mark, I'd have to disagree. I think they're better. I mean, you look at the guys they picked up. Colin Sexton's averaging about 17 points a game. He's a two-way player. Simons was killing off the bench. He's up for sixth man of the year for Boston, and on a second place team. Boston wasn't even supposed to be in any top order this year. He's one of the main reasons why they are. Then you look at Dillingham, who's a young player. Who's a lottery pick. We got 11 lottery picks on our roster now. 11. And Dillingham just wasn't getting any minutes. Some of these guys couldn't get minutes on their regular teams because the fact that they've got stars in front of them. Dillingham's got Conley in front of him. Got some other. Anthony Edwards is handling the ball now at point guard spot. So, and then he's slight in frame. 170, 175 pounds. I see where they're going. I think now they're admitting it without admitting it. That hey, we're scrapping everything. We're starting over, and we're gonna build from the draft. And I think now they got all their first round picks back. They got 14 second round picks, and I didn't know how important second round picks were. But they are just. I mean, they're not as good as the first round, but if you lump a few of them together, because there's so many talented players that slip to the second round that might be in this draft that may slip to the second round, and you got some. I mean, they become much more valuable.
Whispers, what do you think?
Well, it was definitely overdue. He had to do something, but my biggest aching question is now with all these guards, what do you do with Yuki?
He'll play at the Windy City Bulls mostly. Yeah.
That's where it's going.
He'll be a big hit. There's no question about it. At the G League level, his skills are really special. But Stacey, let's go back and deconstruct some of these trades. Obviously it all started last weekend when they facilitated a trade, picked up Dario Saric and a couple of draft picks. Then they threw him in at a trade. They bring in Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley. They trade Mike Conley in the Kobe White deal, and they get Colin Sexton back. They trade Vooch for Anthony Simons. They trade Dalen Terry for Gershon Yabusele. And then they got Nick Richards just before the deadline when they flipped Ousmane Dieng. So the roster's got a completely different look, but the reality of it is the guys that are going to hold the key to the future are still Josh Giddey and Modest Buzelis. And you don't know how any of these new guys are going to fit long term. I think Ivy fits long term, but the rest of them you just don't know.
Well, I mean, Giddey and Modest are your two building blocks. I mean, those are the guys who are pretty much untouchable. The guys the Bulls did not want to part with. You paid Josh a lot of money, in the free agency this summer. And when he's on the floor and healthy, he's a very good player. I mean, a triple-double guy waiting to happen. Modest has shown you in year two that he has the potential to be great. He has the potential to be a great two-way player, a guy that you can give the ball late game situations and have him win the game for you. Right now, he's not there yet. It's, he's still learning. This is his first full year as a starter. He showed you glimpses last year when they made all the trades, what kind of player he could be. He's got to get stronger, probably put on about 10 pounds of muscle. But those two guys are key to what's going on. And then you mentioned Jaden Ivey. This was a top 5 pick. We got 11 lottery picks on our roster right now. He, before injury, was considered a star player in the making with Cade Cunningham in Detroit. And then he got hurt on one of the dirtiest plays I've ever seen as an NBA player, a broadcaster. Guy dives into his legs and hurts him, and he hasn't been the same since. I think he rushed to get back because it's a contract year. I don't think he fully healed, but he's explosive. He's one of the fastest guys from end to end. I mean, when you look at his speed, you think of what Io does for us. You know what Io did for us. You know, being able to get from one end of the court to the other at a fast level. Ivy was that guy. You know, Ivy's that guy, and he can finish, and he can shoot, and he's a tough defensive player. He brings a lot of intangibles that if you're Arturis and Mark Eversley, with the direction that you're going and the playbook that you set out by getting young, young talented kids who's had relative success in the NBA but hasn't reached their potential. He fits that mold. You go get a guy off Detroit's bench. He's not playing this year a lot. He's been in and out of the lineup with injury. They make the move. You know, we give him Kevin Herter and Saric, and we take a chance. You take a chance of flyer on this kid that he's going to get healthy, and hopefully our medical staff will work magic with him, and the rehab will be flawless and get him back to the player that he thinks he can be.
The Bulls traded two of their longest tenured players. Nikola Vucevic goes to the Celtics. He'll get a chance to play. You know, Boston could be a contender in that wide open East, especially if Jason Tatum comes back from his injury and joins the team for the playoff run. But trading Kobe White was really tough. You know, he's drafted in 2019. He's really grown as a player and as a leader on that team. And I know all his teammates are going to be sad to see him go. But you kind of expected it because after this contract Josh Giddey signed, you know, Kobe's an unrestricted free agent coming up, and he's probably going to ask for even more than what they gave Josh. And maybe that was something the Bulls didn't want to do. The one trade that really puzzled me was Io, because Io's making what, $6, $7, $8 million. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent as well. I thought they could have come to a fair contract with Io and kept him around. Were you surprised that they decided to trade the Sumo as well?
Well, I mean, I've always thought that it would be Kobe before Io because Kobe's going to demand a huge salary based off of his career here and what he did last year. Now, this year, he's had some games. It's been up and down with injury. The calf strains kept him out of lineup. So who knows what his market would have been this summer. But I felt like Io would be the guy that if they had to make a choice between the two, Io would be the one that they choose because he's affordable. Plus, he's a guy that's shown you that in any role, he can play any role, off the bench, starter. He can guard 1, 2, 3s, inline speed. He's improved on every aspect of his game, from ball handling to shooting. He's up there in the league leaders in 3-point shooting, almost over 40%. So that was tough. And like I said, when you do this job that I do, you really hate to see this because you just kind of these kids, you watch these kids come in as kids and they grow into young men, and you're there for every step of the way. Kobe, when he got drafted here, he was just a happy kid from Carolina, silly, goofy, just fun to be around. Io, really quiet, kind of, until you got to know him, not a very trusting person, but learned how to open up and trust his family, which is the Bulls organization. And seeing him play with a chip on his shoulder from, thinking I'm supposed to be a first round pick to I'm a second rounder. I'm going to show everybody I'm a first round talent, which he did. He put himself in position to show everybody that he's a first round talent. So to see these guys go, Vooch too. I wasn't here for Vooch's first years in the league, but I was here when Vooch came from, Orlando. Consummate pro, never complained, durable, didn't miss games, didn't complain about his role. He wasn't getting shots. He wasn't this, wasn't that. He just did whatever the coaching staff asked him to do and was professional. All these kids were professional. They weren't these kids that, cry to the press and get on Twitter talking about they didn't get this, get that. They all were consummate pros. They all did what the coaching staff asked them to do. Kevin Herter, too, even though he was here for a short time, consummate pros. So the guys that we let go, were consummate professionals, and they were very important to this organization. And when you can trade a Luka Doncic and only get Anthony Davis, and that's it. No first round picks when you could have got like 10, Mark. That just goes to show you anybody can be traded. And, first round picks are hard to come by. I mean, Trae Young, perennial all-star, leads the league in assists, up there in tops in scoring. He didn't even get a first round pick offered to them from Washington. They just traded him straight up for a few players. What you're seeing now is it's hard to come by those first round picks. Teams do not want to give up first round picks, even for expiring contracts. So you're at a disadvantage if you are a team like the Bulls who are going to have cap space and you're trying to, get, unload players to get better position and get better assets back, you're very limited in what you can do because again, no one's going to sign an unrestricted free agent unless he's like a LeBron James or Steph Curry. They're just not going to do it, and then that guy has a chance to walk away, and you get nothing for him. You gave up draft picks for him, and you got nothing for in return.
I was pleasantly surprised the return they got for Vucevic. I know our friend KC Johnson reported just a few days ago that the market for Vucevic was basically non-existent, and then they went back to the Celtics after Boston washed out on a couple other proposals for starting caliber centers. And not only did they get Anthony Simons, who's a proven scorer in the league, he's had a couple of 20-point per game seasons as a member of the Portland Trailblazers. They also got the Pelicans' second-round draft pick, which is almost like a late first-rounder. So they did excellent business there in the return for Vooch.
Well, Vooch put himself in position by, constantly putting up the numbers that he put up. They didn't fluctuate. It's like death and taxes. You can count on a double-double every year. And I don't care what team who's trying to win a playoff and trying to win playoffs and get deep in the playoffs, you can't tell me you can't use a player like that. A guy that can come off the bench for you if you need him to, a guy that can start for you, high basketball IQ, can shoot the three, keeps the floor space, still has a legit post-up game, even though he doesn't post up a lot. But I guarantee you, Vooch is going to be a different Vooch than what we saw here in Chicago playing for Boston, because this is a team that has a chance to come out of the Eastern Conference. They're probably going to get Jason Tatum back. That's going to make them probably the favorites to come out of the East. He'll be a big part of that. He'll get rejuvenated. He'll do things for them that he didn't do for us. He'll probably be a rim protector. You see Vooch block 3 shots a game in Boston. That's what happens.
I'll take that bet.
Hey, you take that bet. But Mark, that's what happens to a player who's at the end of his career, who's had a great career, but has always been on losing teams and never been out of the first round of the playoffs. That's what happens. At the end of your career now, you're willing to sacrifice and do whatever it takes to win games and play for a title. He's on a good team. That team is he's playing for a coach. There's no excuses. You're not going to be able to, if you don't get rotation in Missoula's defense, you ain't going to play. I've seen him snatch guys out of the lineup because they're not where they're supposed to be defensively. Vooch is going to see Vooch out there trapping pick and rolls. You look at Garza on that team. Garza, was an afterthought. No one was playing Garza. He would have been out the league if it wasn't for Boston. Boston has recreated his career. Luke Cornett, same thing. Boston revitalized his career. Porzingis revitalized his career. So bigs go there. They have a good training staff. They have good coaches. They'll get Vooch motivated, and he'll go out there and help them.
Garza has a deep threat. Who would have thought?
And here's the thing, too, Mark. every one of those guys got traded. The Bulls traded them to situations where they're going into a much better situation than when they left. You got Herter going to Detroit, who got a chance to go deep in the playoffs. Io goes to Minnesota. Minnesota's been to Western Conference Finals a couple of times. He's got a chance to be, playing one of the best young players in the game today in Anthony Edwards. He's in a good situation. Vooch is in Boston. When you look at all those things, you say, wow, they could have sent him to, Washington where, good, where the dinosaurs go to die. You know what I'm saying? They could have sent him to a franchise where, I'm not knocking these franchises like Sacramento. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're nowhere close to making playoffs. They're nowhere close to getting past the first round. But these guys, AK sent these guys to places where they actually have a chance to compete for a title. And that's a good thing because all of them are very, very good guys. Kobe, the Hornets right now are one of the hottest teams in the league right now. They're playing they're playing good basketball right now. They got LaMelo Ball playing the way they envision him to play. Knipple, Miles, all these guys they got down there, are really good young players, and they're starting to show. Now you add a Kobe down there who has experience, who fills the role of Colin Sexton now, gives you 3-point shooting. He's going to be playing at home. He's in North Carolina. He's going to be playing at home. The support he's going to get down there is going to be big for him. So all these guys got placed into situations where they can win. They can go out there, and Julian Phillips is in Minnesota. He's going to get a chance to play with Iowa and Minnesota. Dalen Terry went to the Knicks, was in a good situation. Then they traded him to the Pelicans. But that's not a bad trade for Dalen, because Dalen's going to get a chance to play because, they got rid of the Alvarado kid. He's in New York now. So Dalen Terry, who's a defensive player, will get to play. He'll get to play alongside Herb Jones, learn how to be a solid defensive player, which he's got the tools to do. So all these kids got an opportunity to go play for teams where they can actually contribute and make some big splashes.
Yeah, finding minutes for the guard heavy core is going to be difficult for Billy Donovan, but a couple of moves late kind of balanced out the roster a little bit when they traded Dale and Terry to pick up Gershon Yabusele, who's 30 years old. He played really well for France in the Olympics in 24, but really didn't find a rotation spot with the Knicks. 6'7, 265, kind of a bowling ball kind of guy, but he can do some things in the middle. And then just before the deadline, they got Nick Richards. They flipped Usman Jang to bring in Nick Richards, who's a veteran, 28 years old, 6'11, 245. He can run the floor, he can block some shots. So now the roster's a little more balanced out. And, a lot of people have concluded that all these trades were designed to tank. I don't really think there's much difference. I think the Bulls are still a candidate to make the play-in again.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you can't go out there, and tell guys to, all right, guys, just tank, lose. It's not going to happen. You know, you got guys like Colin Sexton that plays hard every night. He reminds me of Russell Westbrook with his energy and his attention to defense and getting after guys. That guy's not going to tank. These guys are not going to tank. You get a Yabusele who reminds you of Isaiah Stewart, a tough, hard-nosed, rebounding guy, very limited to what he can do offensively as far as shooting threes and being a stretch guy, but he's going to bring toughness. He's going to bring a physicality that we haven't seen, with our bigs. He's going to allow, Jalen Smith to be the starting power forward now. And no questions asked about that. He should be the starting power forward automatically because his numbers prove that when he's on the floor, the Bulls are much better when he's on the floor. So Zach Collins is still here. I don't know what his situation is, how long he's going to be out. But don't sleep on Nick Richards. I know he's on an expiring contract. Do not sleep on Nick Richards. When he's in Charlotte, they had Mark Williams and him in Charlotte. They were some really promising young bigs. They both could run. They both could jump. They both had, rim protection ability. Mark Williams in Phoenix got off to a little better start there than he did, and he ended up gobbling up most of the minutes. The rookie that they drafted from Duke, who hasn't played a lot, for them. They're still expecting big things out of him. But Nick Richards gives us something we don't have. Both him and Yabusele, they give us physicality in the post. They give us guys that are not afraid to get an elbow in the face and give an elbow back. They're not afraid to go, get to the rim and put somebody in the basket and dunk on them. They're gonna make this team a lot tougher, and they're healthy. They want to play. Both those guys were sitting on benches and couldn't get minutes on their team. They're hungry. They want to play. So you're going to get some guys very similar to what we saw last year when we made these trades, guys who may not have been in the rotation where they came from, Trey Jones. Once those guys came over here and got the freedom to play, you saw completely different players that they could actually play. And I think you're going to see a lot with these guys that we picked up.
Let's talk about some of the other moves around the league. Anthony Davis, the Chicago native, who's been injured, traded an 8-player deal from Dallas to Washington, where he's going to team up with Trae Young. Cleveland rolls the dice on James Harden, who always seems to flame out in the playoffs. They traded a 26-year-old Darius Garland to pick up the beard. And the other big trade, Jaren Jackson Jr. going to Utah. So a couple of the tail enders are fattening up. The one, probably the most interesting story, though, Stacey, is the trade that wasn't made. Milwaukee flirted with several teams about Giannis Antetokounmpo and then pulled him back at the last minute. They're hoping they're going to get a bigger haul in the summer, but boy, they're rolling the dice. He's had those calf strains the last couple of years. If that Achilles pops in the last couple of months, they've lost a boatload of assets by hanging on to him.
Listen, I just feel like Giannis could play if he wanted to. I do. I believe that's just he's passive aggressive. I've said this about him. He's not going to say things. He's not going to say trade me. He's going to let people around him do the talking. Obviously, he's not happy there. He wants to win. They're not winning. They're the bottom of the East. They've won a championship, and so how far they've fallen since then hasn't sit well with him. But he's got to take responsibility, Mark, for that because he was in there making these calls. He was in there, go get rid of this guy, go get this guy, and all that didn't pan out. So now he realizes it's a lot harder being a GM than what he thought. And people see LeBron, and everybody wants to do what LeBron's doing. LeBron has a high basketball IQ. He understands what fits around him. what's the best fit around me? This guy good shooter? Is this guy can spot up in the corner because I'm gonna handle the ball? And I think Giannis never figured that out. Like what's the best fit around me? And what's the best fit around him was a team that won the championship. Guys that can take some pressure off him offensively. Guys who can knock shots down like Chris Middleton, a mid-range game that can post up, require double team, allow him to slice to the basket and get dunks or lobs to the rim because he's getting double teamed in the post at 6'7". A guy like Drew Holiday who makes the sacrifice of being a number one guy says, hey, it's a big fella's team. I'm going to get him the ball every single time down the floor when he's open. You miss that. You miss those kind of guys. And I think he realizes, Brook Lopez, sacrificing himself by being more of a perimeter player than a low post guy. So you miss those guys. And now you try to replicate it, and you never been able to replicate it with Dame Lillard and all the other guys you brought in. But with that saying, he's a talented player. From what I hear, Miami had the best offer on the table for Giannis, and they didn't take it. And I don't know if they'll ever get a better deal than that because they offered. What I heard, they offered Tyler Hero, who's from Wisconsin.
Right.
They Khalil Ware, who's a talented young big who has a chance to be an all-star in the Eastern Conference. So and Tyler Hero's an all-star, okay? And you got a possible of another kid making the all-star team at some point in Ware. And then they were going to give him a boatload with first-round picks. And I don't think anybody had a package that Miami had. I just think it came down to if they have to trade Giannis, unless it's a knock your socks off deal in the East, they want to get him out of the East. They don't want to have to see him 3 or 4 times a year coming back into the city and breaking everybody's heart. Like this is what could have been, and his team is killing Milwaukee. You know what I'm saying? So if we sit him out west, we only got to see him twice. Once in the early part of the season, once late part of the season. They can deal with that a little bit better.
The problem is, though, that you have to worry about Giannis's health. As I mentioned, the fact that he doesn't really have a high skilled game. So as if he loses athleticism, he's not going to be the dominant player he's been for the last 13 years. The other thing is now, if they want to trade him this summer, he's only got one more guaranteed year on his contract. He'll have a player option after that. He can dictate where he wants to go. And when you say, I only want to go to this team, that's going to limit the return they get back in a trade. So I think Milwaukee might have bungled this one.
Well, Miami's offer was really fair, and it really probably more than they were going to get. This is what I've heard from my little sources in Miami. But at the same time, maybe Milwaukee's holding on to him and seeing what they get in the draft. Let's say they get the number 1 pick and they pair him with one of these kids, and say, hey, look, we got the superstar here. You can mentor him. We'll go out and get some other pieces around you. And, maybe they're looking at it that way. Maybe Giannis goes, I don't want to leave. I want to stay that, But if I was Milwaukee, I'd go get his brother that's playing overseas right now in Greece, bring him, sign him, get all his family, have his mom give her a special role. She could be the director of Greek food or something, have her be the head chef in there, and get his family there. Get all his brothers there.
They already got 2 of the brothers, Stacey.
But one is playing. One's on the roster.
One's in the G League.
No, get him on the roster, man. Get him on the roster. Get him on the roster. Yeah, but the one over in I think Greece is a younger version of Giannis. He looks like Giannis did when he first came in this league. Very athletic, can run, jump. I would go get him, but at the same time, you got to do what's best for your franchise because you can't keep doing this where he's happy 1 minute and then he wants to get traded another minute, and you're clearing the deck for him. You're bringing all these players in. You're paying all these guys this money, and then you got to get rid of everybody because look, Miles, you brought Miles Turner in. You thought that was going to be a good pairing for those two, and it was in the beginning, but all of a sudden, it's not good. Doc Rivers. Maybe Doc Rivers is too, and I love Doc. Doc is a good veterans coach. Maybe they need somebody like Thibodeau that's going to hold them accountable. That's going to say, Giannis, no, you can't turn the ball over 3 straight times and then blame your teammates. Maybe you need that kind of coach that he respects, that he will be held accountable. Because right now, he's not held accountable. And I say this about all these guys who have these calf injuries. All these guys who are on the injury list and all this stuff. If you were playing a game 7 right now, could you play? Could you play in a game 7 for the world championship? Could you play? Yeah, I can play. then why the hell are you playing now? Exactly. That's what I'd ask these guys.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, and listen, injuries are injuries. It's all part of it. But every one of these guys all get diagnosed with the same injury. It's not a coincidence. Like 10 guys got calf strains. It's like, okay, you didn't see 10 guys with ACL tears. You never seen 10 guys with ankles broken. You just don't see it. But to see guys now, anytime someone gets hurt, it's a calf strain or it's some kind of muscular strain. I think they need to start, since they like analytics, they need to go back in time and see how many guys, and we practice way more than they do. We travel the same way. Everything they do, we do. We didn't have all the masseuses all traveling on the road with us. We didn't have all that, okay? But I would be interested to see how many guys from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s were, and if they were able to keep track of those, how many games were missed with soft tissue injuries, and how many games were missed with like legitimate injuries like ACL tears and all that kind of stuff, Achilles tears and all that stuff.
Tim, Stacey had to walk 10 miles up the hill in the snow to get to practice too.
Yeah, and his mom boiled him 2 eggs to keep his hands warm, and then he ate them for lunch.
Listen.
Get off my lawn! Get off my lawn!
If I had never played this game, I would not know about this game.
He wore those canvas shoes.
Listen, I've walked in the same places, same arenas these guys
Chuck
have played
Taylor's, he's playing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. If I had not played this game, I would say, yeah, I can see that. I listen to LeBron James talking about, we run more and we do this more. Da, 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 da. Come on, man. It's the same dimension court that we played on, okay? The pace. We're playing at a higher pace. What, just running down, stay in the corner, jacking up threes? You're playing with a higher pace? No, you're getting up more shots. That doesn't mean you're actually running. It means you're getting up more shots and more opportunities. But I'd be interested to see like how many. First of all, these guys don't practice. That's number one. And anybody who knows anything about an athlete, if you don't practice and you don't work, you're gonna have injuries. You cannot go out there and go full speed after you just walk through something or walk through a practice. Like we're gonna walk through. You've seen guys that when they do their pregame, right? When they're out there shooting on the court. How many of those guys are going full speed? Watch a Steph Curry workout.
Yeah.
Steph Curry's working out like he's playing in the fourth quarter. But you see some of these guys, nonchalant jumpers, walking to their spots. You're not even preparing your body to go into a 48-minute game to do the things you need to do to score. They're just walking. How many times you walked into an arena, Mark, and you see a guy sitting on the floor stretching?
Yeah, sure.
They got all these tubes and bands. I mean, you think it's chariots of fire. They put this band around a guy and have a guy run, and they're pulling them.
Chariots of fire.
Chariots of fire. A little chariot.
Hear the music. Cue the music, Fred.
You're running in slow motion on the beach.
Exactly. So they put that little band on them. Mark, like chariots of fire, and they're running, and that's their stretching. And I'm like,
it's time for a commercial. You've gone way too far.
I'm telling you, man. What I'm saying is true. If you play the game, you know.
Oh man,
what you know.
That is too much.
Another reference for the young crowd.
Right. We're gonna get back talking specifically about the Bulls with the voice of the people. Ricky O'Donnell from SB Nation is going to join us after a break. But first, we want to tell you about a great Chicago sports fan, one of our proud sponsors, our guy Jeff Vukovich. When it comes to insurance for your auto, home, and business, make sure you contact the best in the business, nationwide agent Jeff Vukovich. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. Phone number 847-825-4783. And the roster has changed, but the jingle remains the same, courtesy of our guy Stacey King.
Nationwide is on your side.
Oh no!
Boy, yeah.
Well, Jeff didn't get the full treatment today.
So the false enthusiasm.
You know what? There's a tribute to my partners who jumped me. Telling me I'm the guy on the yard and all of that. I say y'all brought my whole mood down. You two brought my whole mood down.
Well, Ricky O'Donnell is next, and he'll bring it up on Gimme the Hot Sauce. Keep it right here. All right, you heard what Stacey King thinks about the Bulls' moves. Let's now get the counterpoint. Let's go out to our good buddy, the friend of the program, Ricky O'Donnell from SB Nation. I saw some of your comments on X. It was kind of a whirlwind. I thought the first two moves, they got some productive players, and then it was kind of strange, and then the last move to get Nick Richards kind of suggests we're going for the play-in again. So what do you make sense out of everything that happened?
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to separate the moves Arturis made over the last couple days from just the way the Bulls have completely mismanaged the last 9 years of the franchise since they traded Jimmy Butler. The Bulls have not won a playoff series since 2015. Since the Butler trade, this has now been 9 seasons where they've only made the playoffs one time with one playoff win, and they're basically rebuilding for the third time post Jimmy Butler at this point. So I think in a vacuum, all the moves are defensible, and some of them I even really liked. I was a big fan of Jaden Ivey entering the draft, and if he can get back physically to 100%, he could be a pretty nice value proposition for just Kevin Herter. I thought they got really good value for Vooch, getting back the Pelicans' second round pick. But at the end of the day, the Reinsdorfs have turned the Bulls into a poverty franchise with their slumlord ownership. And it's just a really bad situation for the fan base. Like, this is too good of a basketball city for the Bulls to sit here and be looking at such a bleak future. It's going to be a long time before the Bulls are good again. Now, I will say, they are potentially finally taking their medicine a little bit. So I think that making these moves is better than going after another play-in run. I think that it's good to maximize your lottery odds, but you already got 24 wins, and look at all the other tanking teams around the league. It's going to be a pretty big long shot for the Bulls to get some lottery luck. They definitely need it. But in general, I think, the moves in a vacuum pretty good. It's just been a rough stretch for Bulls fans, and it's going to be a while before there's any hope on the horizon unless they get very lucky.
Well, it seems like I know, a lot of people call for the so-called tanking, let's tank, let's go for the draft, let's draft the players. And then when the Bulls kind of, everybody thinks it's too late. You waited too long to do it. But if you look between the numbers with this team, they got all their first now. They got all their first back. They got a ton of second round picks, which are valuable. I did not know second round picks were as valuable as they are, but they are. And they got a ton of those guys. Now, do you feel, Ricky, that they're setting themselves up, even though they may not, get the pick that they want this year in this draft? Who knows? Maybe they get lucky. Maybe they get in the top 5. Okay. Now, does that all look better now, long haul, going forward with what you already have? Because some of these guys they picked up, like Anthony Simons is a really good player. I mean, he's a really good scorer. From all the people I talked to in Boston, he really changed his defensive mindset around because importantly, he just needed him to score. In Boston, he's coming off the bench. He had to take a different role. He really committed to the defense and was not just an offensive player. Ivy, top 5 pick. I think we've got 11 lottery picks on the roster now. I mean, that's crazy when you think about it. But some of these guys got some upside. I like Dillingham. I think a lot of people think he's small. But you look at a guy like Peyton Pritchard. There's guys in this league that are super small that are playing well. They've got some pieces, and if they can get lucky, and we say lucky, if they can get one of these guys in the top 5 this year, would you say they're going in the right direction?
Oh, yeah. One superstar would change this thing so quickly, and I really believe this is one of the strongest drafts I've ever covered. I really think Cameron Boozer is going to be a lock to be an All-NBA caliber player. I think Darren Peterson can be an All-NBA caliber player too if he can stay healthy and get over these weird hamstring and cramping issues. So one superstar would change everything. And really, after these moves the Bulls made, they still have some pretty damn good role players left over. I think one of the best parts about this season is you discovered Trey Jones. You discovered Jalen Smith. And while I've been a massive critic of Arturas Karnisovas and believe he should absolutely be fired tomorrow by the Bulls, he's done some good things. And uncovering Trey Jones and Jalen Smith are both really good moves. Maybe one day we'll be able to add, Jaden Ivey to that list. And I think Ivey's going to get a long runway now to sort of show what he can do. So I think like when the moves were coming individually, it was sort of hard to sort of grasp the big picture of what the Bulls are trying to do. Now I get it. And really, they're going to come into this summer with a ton of cap space. Based on some of the reporting, it seems like Arturas really likes Tari Eason. I love Tari Eason. He's a restricted free agent. That would be a great use of your cap space, I think, to go get him. If not, how about Peyton Watson from the Denver Nuggets, who looks like an incredibly bright young player, and I don't think Denver's going to be able to afford him after they already paid Christian Brown and a couple other guys there. So I think, Bulls' big picture plan, go throw some money and some restricted free agents this year. You have a lot of cap space. You have to find a new center. I think that's, the biggest on-court need for the team. And then, you pray for lottery luck. And even if you don't get in the top 4, you still should pick probably around 10. And you could get a good player at 10. Maybe the Blazers win a couple play-in games. You have 2 top 15 picks. Asenge comes back next year. I could actually be talked into it. The thing is that it's just tough to trust the Bulls to pull off this rebuild because, I've seen 2 other rebuilds fail. And I don't know why I would believe that they're actually going to do it right this time.
And I totally get that because you're only going by what you see. People are only going by what they see. And now it's a situation where it's kind of like, okay, we're really gonna rebuild now. We got to we got to get rid of these guys. We got to start over. And it seems like they've come to grips that this team was just not good enough. Even when they had Zach and all these guys, it was a team that was basically going to maybe play in, maybe lower 7, 8, 9 in the playoffs. When the ultimate goal is to try to get higher in the playoff seeds and play for championships. They were so far away. I know they thought before Zoe got hurt that they had a good chance, but let's be realistic. I don't even think that would have happened. I think they would have made the playoffs solidly, but I don't think they were a championship caliber team. There was too many holes that they needed, especially on the defensive end. Now with this, where they're going now, I get the frustration from fans. I get the frustration from everybody. But when you look at the players they bought in, it wasn't like they went and got, they shopped at some discount store and a dollar store and they got some legitimate players. Now, a lot of guards. This has been a guard heavy team since Billy's been here. That's my only concern. It's like, are we going to get some size? I know they picked up Nick Richards, and I like Nick Richards. I thought Nick Richards is a very serviceable big. I think he was, didn't get a lot of opportunities with all the bigs they had in Phoenix, but I think he's a guy. I know when he was in Charlotte, he gave us fits. Very powerful, strong guy, dunks the ball, just a very good low post game. I can see where they're going with this, and when you're key, because the whole key to me is Modest. And I was just talking about this today. I want to see Modest now full development. I want him to be more than just a spot up shooter because over the last month, Ricky, he's just been kind of like Lowry was at the end of his tenure here, just a spot-up guy in the corner. It's kind of taken him away from his athleticism, the things that made him special when he got those minutes. I want to see him go back because he's the foundational piece. Him and Josh Giddey are your foundational pieces, and you throw in a Jaden Ivey who could possibly be another foundational piece. You got a pretty good setup, and all your picks too. They've got themselves back in the game. Now, what they do with it is the key. You can't make mistakes now. You got to hit home runs. You can't, go for potential. You got to go for home runs. You get that top 5 pick. You can't go draft a guy that we've never heard of when we already know the guys up front are franchise players. You know what I'm saying?
Totally, yeah. And I think, I agree with everything you said there. Bizelis in general, I think he's been pretty good as a sophomore. I understand some of the fans' frustration. It's like Modest has so much on his shoulders to really be the franchise player for this team. It's a lot to live up to. But for an age 21 player, I really do think that he's shown some improvement this year, and he's been pretty good. Look at the other night against the Bucks, 5 threes, 5 blocks. That's the type of guy he is, throwing 5 dunks, and that's like a pretty rare archetype that Modest can be. I want to see him spend more time on the ball. And I know there's going to be a learning curve when he's running pick and roll and he's attacking in isolation. But this is the time to do it, man. I mean, you just traded all these foundational pieces on the team. Now Modest is in the spotlight, and let him run some pick and roll. Let him run some isolation, and let him take a mid-range.
Very similar to what they're doing to Cooper Flag, Ricky. Very similar to what they're doing to Cooper Flag out of Dallas. They're just giving the ball and say, go make plays. Go out and do you. And I know a lot of people are not really, they're probably saying, well, he's in the beginning they said he's going to be a bust. Now he's put some 30 and 40-point games together, and people now going, oh, I can see why he was the number 1 pick. And that's what I like to see Billy do with Modest. Just give him the ball, live with his mistakes, learn from those mistakes, go out there and do you. He's got great handles. He can shoot the ball. He's a better shooter than he was last year. His ball handling's gotten better. Start really focusing on his development and get him to the player that you need him to be, because he's already shown you the ability to be a two-way player. He's shown you at 20, he's 21 years old. He's already shown you the ability he can be an elite two-way player, kind of like, Karolinko in Utah, a guy that can block shots, rebound, score. Now Modest is a better athlete than Karolinko and can handle the ball better than Karolinko. But as far as being a two-way dominant player like that, I can see Modest being that guy.
Yeah, I'm honestly happy with Modest's development this season. Still has a long way to go, but I think this second season was a step in the right direction. Absolutely. And then, you look at the rest of the roster, and I would say, like, a lot of these guys are on expiring contracts. Will Anthony Simons be here next year? Will Colin Sexton be here next year? I don't know. Like, I do think Simons is a solid player, and honestly, he can probably give you somewhere between 90 to 110% of what Kobe was giving you. And I loved watching Kobe as a Bulls fan, but very similar players. And Simon's numbers this year are better. Obviously, Kobe dealing with the calf strain, and I wish him the best in Charlotte. I think he's set up for a really good situation with the Hornets. I think he's going to kill it. So I'm excited to watch him on one of the most exciting young teams in the league in Charlotte. But I think the Bulls are really going to have to do a lot of work on this roster. I would love to see them have better big man depth. I mean, this has been a thing with Karnisovas for several years. The only bigs on the roster a few years ago were Vooch and Andre Drummond. They never tried to get a younger big to develop behind Vooch in the 6 years he was here or whatever. And now that he's gone, it's like, wow, I really think the floor is going to fall out for the Bulls this season. Because Vooch, while the fan base got frustrated with him, I know I often got frustrated with him. He was a pretty damn good player in a lot of ways. Like, his shooting opened up the driving lanes for Giddey and Kobe and Io. 38% three-point shooter for a guy who's 250 with a 7'5 wingspan. I mean, there's not a lot of people that can check that type of box. So without him, I think, they really need to find their center of the future. And one good big man would really change quite a bit for the Bulls. They're going to have to start searching the margins. And, they did find Jalen Smith, who, if you look at the spreadsheets, there's all these advanced stats in basketball now, very similar to the Moneyball revolution in baseball, about 15, 20 years ago. And the spreadsheets say the Bulls' best player this season has been Jalen Smith. They view him as about a top 70 player offensively in the NBA. And mostly it's because his net rating is so good. When Jalen Smith's on the floor, the Bulls are a plus 15 in net rating. Totally crazy.
Ricky,
is some of it a fluke?
Day one.
Is some of it maybe a fluke? Like, I don't know. But I've always liked Jalen Smith. I was happy when they signed him, and he's exceeded my expectations. I think that coaches in all sports over-index on defense a little bit. And Jalen Smith's issue is that he makes some mental mistakes defensively, but you play him for his offense. And it's just hard to find a 6'10 guy who's a really good dribble, pass, shoot skill set who could play the 4 or the 5. I would love to see the Bulls go two bigs in the future with Jalen Smith as your starting 4. Get Modest at the 3. Now, I think that Modest, Modest's best skill, honestly, is probably his secondary rim protection. His shot blocking is sick. He's like top 15 in the entire league in block rate. But his defense isn't always good because he'll get blown by. Like, guys can blow by him on the perimeter. But I kind of think, like, he might be best at the 3 long term, and you just got to try to drill, defensive principles into him to help him survive on the perimeter. We know he's got the athleticism to recover. If he gets beat, he's still going to be able to contest shots at the rim. So a lot of balls up in the air for the Bulls. Absolutely. But, while I was pretty upset in the moment seeing some of these deals go down, I think now that it's complete, Arturas did a pretty good job in a vacuum. Unfortunately, I think Arturas has done an objectively awful job during his tenure, and he does not deserve to have another chance to rebuild the roster. That's on Michael Reinsdorf. Michael Reinsdorf needs to realize, like, I'm in charge of this franchise now. I need to be a steward for this unbelievable fan base the Bulls have. And look at the gym on D Rose night. I mean, oh my God, you get one iconic player who basically, I mean, I don't mean to diminish what D Rose did, but he literally had 120 great games. It's not like he had like some long tenure of great play, but he meant so much to Chicago. He certainly meant so much to me growing up watching D Rose. I say growing up, I'm older than D Rose, but I watched his whole career. He was phenomenal. They got to find their next iconic player, and that is going to take some luck. The Spurs got lottery luck 3 years in a row. They're able to get Wembanyama, Steph Castle, and Dylan Harper. The Bulls got lottery luck one time, and they get stuck with Patrick Williams. So it's going to take more luck, but Chicago deserves it, and the Bulls had to take their medicine. And in general, I think Arturas did what he had to do instead of chasing the play-in tournament this time around.
Hey, Ricky, getting back to your comment about developing a young big man, you forgot the Marko Simonovic era. I got a chance to watch him play at Windy City, dominate those G League guys. He was dunking on fellas over there. But which leads me to my larger point: second round draft picks. Remember, the Bulls were allergic to second round draft picks. They would trade them for cash. They would dump them into trades. They always included second round picks in any trade they made just to get rid of them. Now they've acquired what, 9 in the last 2 weeks. They have 14 overall. Basically, second round picks have some value in terms of being sweeteners in trades, but functionality in terms of finding a meaningful player is very limited. And AK did find a meaningful second round pick in Io DeSumo, and then he traded him for a bag of chips. I don't get why, you talk about developmental success. Io DeSumo stands out. He has been arguably one of the Bulls' best players this season. He's developed his 3-point shooting among the league leaders. He's a terror in the open court attacking the basket. And why would you not want to keep him and re-sign him this summer?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think mostly that they didn't want to pay him double his salary. And they already had a mediocre team with Io on a scam deal. He's making $7 million a year. It's one of the best contracts in the NBA. But your team's winning 38 games every year. So now you got to pay him 15, 16, 17 million a year. And Io deserves that. He's been so good. He's had a special season this year. He really has. But he's in the prime of his career, and your team's mediocre as hell. So at the end of the day, I was fully in favor of trading Io DeSumo. I did not think his value would be this poor. And I did like Dillingham in the draft. I had him rated pretty high in that 24
He's too
draft.
small. Those guys are a dime a dozen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I was just wrong. And basically, for Dillingham to be really good, he has to be a lights out shooter and a lights out playmaker. And I thought he was at Kentucky when I was watching him. But I mean, the margin for error is so slim when you weigh 170 pounds soaking wet, like Rob Dillingham does. I am excited to watch him though, because give me Jaden Ivey and Rob Dillingham the rest of this year. And I know Ivey hasn't looked healthy. I've actually been going back and watching some Ivey tape this season because, I loved Ivey at Purdue. I want to see what the Bulls have in this guy. He had such a horrific leg injury. And Cole Anthony, what a dirty play to injure. Yeah. I was just watching that again. I'm like, that's legitimately one of the dirtiest plays I've seen in almost 40 years as a basketball fan. But Ivey's going to get back eventually. He's not back yet. He's still recovering. He probably came back a little too early from this injury, which is understandable in the contract year. And I think, the negotiation with Ivey will be really interesting, mostly because he has a $30 million cap hold. So for the Bulls to access their cap space this year, they need to agree to a quick deal with Ivey. Is Ivey going to agree to a team-friendly deal right away? Like, normally you get that by waiting a guy out. So I think that is kind of a big question mark, but I want to see Dillingham play, man. Like, I don't think that, while Simons is a good player, for sure. Simons is good, no doubt. But, like, what's he doing for the Bulls the rest of this season on an expiring contract? Like, I want to see the young guys play. Give me Dillingham, give me Ivey, let Modest run some damn pick and roll, and maybe try to play Jalen Smith 30 minutes a game to see if you really got something there. So there's still some good role players here. The Bulls need a star. And, it's funny. I was listening to D Rose on the Score, and D Rose said, the Bulls, what are they missing? They're missing a superstar. So you could watch every game or you could watch no games. And you arrive to the same conclusion. The Bulls need that new franchise star. I do think they increase their chances of getting one by making these moves at the trade deadline. They're still going to need a lot of luck. And if not 2026, maybe 2027 or 2028.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rick. I mean, just, I don't, when people say, well, are you any better than you were, when you had these other guys? And I would say, I as much as I hate to see those guys go, because I understand it's a business. I mean, if you can trade Luka Doncic for a bag of chips and a case of Fantas, anybody can be traded. So, and I understand, people's frustration, especially Io, because he's a Chicago kid. And, and everything he's done here, they love him just as much as they love D Rose in the city, and I hate on that part. This is one of the hardest parts of the job being around this team is you get so connected with these guys. I see him outside of what everybody else sees him, and I'm on a friend basis with these guys. And so anytime these guys get moved, it just takes a piece of you with you. When Derrick Rose got traded to New York, that was like a big piece of me that went, so you just get so connected to these guys, but also being in this game and knowing that this is a business is part of it. I always tell Bulls fans that, hey, listen, there's a method to the madness. Even though you just think it's madness, there's a method to the madness. You just got to see how this plays out. Because at the end of the day, the Bulls got their first round, all their first round picks line back up. They got a ton of second round picks now. They've got some good assets in guys like, Simons and other guys that if they want to sign those guys, they can. If not, they can let them walk and not lose anything. That cap number goes down. They're able to go out and maybe go get another young big. Maybe they get a top 5 pick. Maybe the basketball gods reward the Bulls and say, hey, you know what? We're going to give you a top 5 pick. And this draft is really, really deep. It's really deep. It's not like it used to be like, well, if you didn't get it in the top 10, you weren't going to get anybody. There's going to be some guys that go low in the first round that are going to turn out to be stars and be really good players in this league because it's such a deep, deep draft. So I know what they're doing. And you just sometimes I don't agree with the way it's going, but I know what they're doing. And Josh Giddey's got to get healthy. You need Josh Giddey. You need your key players modest to develop and take that next step. Because if you get those guys growing, Ricky, then you get some superstar players says, hey, I like what the Bulls are doing. They got some good young talent. I'm gonna be an unrestricted free agent or a restricted free agent. I want to go play with them, just like Kevin Durant and all those guys saw Brooklyn with when Brooklyn had all those guys, they were really hard playing guys. And they said, hey, let's go down and play in Brooklyn. It can happen. And Chicago is a great city. The players love coming here, no matter how cold it is. This is still a great city to come here. There's so much to do here. And, I just think they position themselves a little bit better because people are going to say, why did you get first round picks for all these people? Do you know how hard it is for them to negotiate with teams to get first round picks? If Trae Young doesn't get a first round pick, okay, Trae Young, who's not even 30 yet, if he can't get a first round offer, a first round pick, that just goes to show you how hard it is. If you're not like a superstar player, Jaren Jackson, who's defensive player of the year, who can anchor your defense, yeah, he's going to get first round picks offered for him. Okay, but you've seen guys in this particular free agency, no one's getting first round picks offered to them. Matter of fact, the Memphis Grizzlies supposedly are we're trying to sweeten their pot by not taking some of their demands down for Ja Morant because nobody wants to give you a first round pick for an expiring contract because you know why? What if that guy doesn't stay? It all sounds good, expiring contracts, they save money. But what if that guy doesn't stay and resign with you? And now, you give a first round talent away that could be a star player. And now your owner is mad at you, the GM. Why'd you do that? You know what I'm saying? So there's always this little give and take that comes along behind the scenes. And I just think sometimes fans get caught up in why didn't we get this? Why didn't we? Because I would too. If I saw all these guys that we didn't get no first round picks, I could see their point.
Yeah, I think at this trade deadline, Arturas got the best returns he could have. The IO trade is probably the most questionable, and it's like, all right, you're either going to pay him, let's say, 4 years, $60 million, and if you don't want to give him that deal, you got to get something for him. Same thing with Kobe. It's like if you're not going to pay him, you got to trade him for something. The issue is less what he did this year and more the direction the Bulls have gone in the last few years, where really the team didn't have much upside. Like Arturas wanted to try to get into the playoffs through the play-in tournament, but even at that point, you're going to be roadkill against these elite teams. So I think this year he finally came to his senses a little bit and he realized, all right, you know what? There's no salvation at the end of the tunnel. Even if we do get the 8 seed, we're going to get crushed by the Pistons or the Knicks or whatever. So get rid of these guys, go into the offseason with all this cap space. Now you got to throw it around and now you got to use it. And the restricted free agency market in the NBA is typically very cold. Look at what happened to Giddey last year. Anyone could have put pressure on the Bulls to sign Josh Giddey, and no one did it the entire season, in part because no one around the league had any money. Yeah. This year, there's a handful of teams that have money, and the Bulls are one of them. And the Bulls have basically no contracts on the books. There's a few guys that pique my interest. How about Mark Williams from the Phoenix Suns? He's been one of the big reasons why the Suns have been such a shocking team. I think I power ranked the Suns 27th in the league coming into the season, and they're going to make the playoffs in the West without going through the play-in. I was totally wrong about the Suns. They've been awesome. One reason why is Mark Williams has been really good. He's also been constantly injured through his career, so do you really want to throw a big contract at him? I think you at least have to think about it. Other guy I really like, my favorite sleeper in free agency this year, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his full last name, but from the Toronto Raptors, Mamu. Mamu is having a great year for the Raptors off the bench. He's another advanced stats superstar. I would like to see the Bulls try to get him. I think they still need a big who can shoot in the front court if you're going to build around Giddey and Ivy, who are kind of shaky shooters in terms of their volume. So I love the idea of going after Mamu. And then I already mentioned Peyton Watson, Tari Eason. Their teams will not want to give them up. You're going to have to make them sign a good offer sheet. But I mean, that's why you line up these expiring contracts. That's why you try to get in position to add some young talent. And then, you just hope that Ivy can get back. Because Ivy's the one guy they acquired here who I'm like, he actually has quite a bit of talent if they can get him right physically. And I was watching some Ivy tape this year. Ivy cannot beat anyone off the dribble right now. And it's because of the injury. But he's going to get healthy. This isn't going to be a forever injury for him. He's about, 12 months, 13 months removed from when it happened. And he can be really good. I want to see Dillingham too. So I'm feeling a little better. I mean, the Bulls seem like they're finally taking their medicine. The thing is, I just don't trust Arturas to rebuild this. Like his mistakes were not really this year. His mistakes were 2022, 2023, 2024. So now it's 2026 and it's like, all right, you got to do the best you can. It seems like he has learned from his mistakes. Biggest thing you can do in life is learn from your mistakes, baby. That's my wisdom right there. Maybe Arturas is doing it, but he's got a big job in front of him.
All right, so Ricky's mellowing in his advancing age now. Only called for the front office to be fired twice. Ricky, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Friend of the program. Follow all his great work at SB Nation. We'll be talking to you again as we approach draft time, Ricky.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rick.
Yep.
We'll talk a little bit Super Bowl. Maybe get a prediction from Stacey and Tim when we come back. We are back and Gimme the Hot Sauce. I want to tell you about another one of our great sponsors, our friends at Biggers Mazda. Jim Lecter in charge over there at 2100 Randall Road. Their sizzling new location. Biggers is offering a bottle of Stacey's signature hot sauce with first test drives of new or pre-owned vehicles. Everything from the coolest SUVs to the stunning Miata. So join the fun at 2100 Randall Road in Elgin at Biggers Mazda. Tell them the Gimme the Hot Sauce crew sent you. Stacey, there's a football game on Sunday. You gonna be watching?
I'm gonna definitely be watching Super Bowl. So I'm watching for the ads. I don't really care about the game. It's all about the ads now. The last couple of years, though, it's been kind of, because everybody wants to see the ads. That's why you watch Super Bowl. But the last couple of years, the ads have been kind of. I think there's they used to have like 8 or 9. And you go, oh man, did you see so and so and so and so? Now it's like 1. And it's like a big letdown. So hopefully it'll be better this year. But it should be a fun Super Bowl because. Both these teams, I don't think anyone expected either one of these teams to be in the Super Bowl this year. Definitely not New England. I don't think anybody
for sure.
That, with Buffalo and Baltimore and Kansas City. I don't think anyone thought New England was going to be there. Mike Vrabel's done an excellent job with that team. He's got those guys believing. They go into Denver. It would have been nice to see, if Bo Nix wouldn't have got hurt for Denver second to the last play of the game. If he was healthy, I still don't think Denver wins, but I think Nix gives you a better chance to win than a guy that hadn't played in over a year, hadn't thrown a ball. So going on the road, winning Denver is awesome. Their defense did a great job. Both have prime defenses, but I gotta go with Seattle. I gotta go with Seattle only for the simple fact that I think Sam Darnold now has shown everybody he's the real deal. He's the guy that everybody drafted. He's been in some different programs. He got drafted by the Jets. It's hard to be good with the Jets, because it's just such a franchise that's so disorganized. So a young quarterback's going to struggle there. He went to Charlotte, had some little brief success, but they gave up on him. Then he ends up in Minnesota and has a really good career. I mean, I just saw Justin Jefferson say we should have kept Sam Darnold. We might have been a better team this year.
Yeah.
What does that say? What kind of indictment is that to your guy that you had in your first round pick, J.J. McCarthy? What kind of confidence did that do for him? Your star receiver basically just, craps on the organization and say, we should have kept him. We'd have been better this year. And then, in San Francisco, he actually learned from a great coach, Shanahan, was in the quarterback room with great people, and he's reached his potential. And now he's in Seattle with a great defense behind him, because that's what a good quarterback needs, is a great defense. So it takes pressure off the offense when they can shut a team down and give you opportunities to score points and then hold those teams and not put pressure on them. And that Rams game, in the conference finals was very, very impressive because it could have went either way. Matthew Stafford had a chance, at the end to at least, send it to overtime and win the game for him. But Sam Darnold's, it's got to be Seattle, man.
What do you think, Whispers? How do you break that game down?
Well, it's one thing is there's not a lot of low-scoring Super Bowl games, even though there's great defenses. So I do expect some scoring. I think you're going to see Walker, JSN, those guys tear it up. On the other side, will Diggs get his just due finally in a big game? And
well, the funny thing is, Drake May has had the shoulder banged up, and I think he only passed for like 86 yards in the AFC Championship game. So you don't know if May can put up enough points to keep up with Seattle, because Seattle, even though they're known for their defense, they have some weapons on the offensive side.
Yeah,
that's true. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I actually did pick them with the Bears to both be in the Super Bowl beginning of the season.
New England
putting 20 spot on New England that'll pay over 600 if they win.
Based on what? Weren't they like 4-13 the last couple of years?
Just the 20-year anniversary, just stupidity of bets, but that's the way it works. And so, yeah. And if the Bears were in it and won, they would have paid about $6,000 on the underdogs.
So Stacey, you got a score for us for the Super Bowl?
Seattle 35, New England 14.
Oh, a blowout. Yeah, I kind of that way. I go 31-17 Seattle. I don't think New England can keep up with them offensively.
I don't think so either, Mark, because again, they don't have the weapons.
Yeah.
And May being banged up a little bit, you're gonna have to test that defense. That defense is really, they got a front four. Seattle's got a front four. They put pressure on so many different ways. They're a takeaway defense as well. And they're physical. And they can score points. They got a running game and a passing game, and you got Darnold back there slinging it. I think I don't think the score is going to be as close as people think.
You got a contrarian pick for us? You got to go New England now? No. Okay.
No, I think it'll be a low-scoring first half, and then it's going to open up in that second half, and maybe it's because defensive guys are known for going out drinking during the Super Bowl, so that's where it falls apart. They get tired.
So you're going to put some prop bets down? I know you like to put some
I did.
wagers
I got
on.
some ridiculous, stupid parlays that are like.
What's the most ridiculous
ways.
one?
One is based on sacks. So
sex?
Yeah,
sex. Oh, okay.
I thought he said sex.
Well, that is a prop bet. You never know. Like Joe Namath said, someone was sent to his room back in the day, and he said he took full advantage of it. Didn't slow him down.
It's funny. We started last week's show talking about gambling.
Yeah.
And Chicago Sports Network cut it all out.
Oh man.
They went right into the basketball. They're like, we're not gonna have any gambling talk from Whispers on our show.
But weren't they supposed to get as a gambling sponsor? I'm confused.
Because you were talking about your system for playing craps.
Oh yeah,
that was like too much inside the beltway.
And you know what? And that was very valuable.
Yeah, it was
very valuable. Yeah, it was very valuable that he had that going on there. Like I'm like. I mean, I'm not going to use his philosophy, but if somebody might.
You do use it. What are you talking about? We play the same way.
Like a grandmother, little granny, she might use it. On the crap table.
And you mean playing slots?
No, not slots. You're gonna be. I noticed when the senior citizens play craps, they win. So you better bet whatever they bet, because they win for whatever. I've seen like an 80-year-old lady.
Circus when he's in Vegas.
I've seen some 85-year-old women just rolling 7s and 11s and I'm like, and every time I always bet against them. I'm like, oh, they're not gonna win. They don't know how to play, and then I lose, and then so I start betting with them, and then they got hot dice. They'll stop, and then they'll give the next guy the dice, and you say, well, maybe these dice are still hot. 7 out, 8 guys out, losers, yeah.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, you won't see this on Chicago Sports Network because they'll let it.
They're trying to censor us, man. They're trying to
all this out. Hey, are you gonna have Angel Water at your Super Bowl party, Tim?
We always do, and you definitely need it the next day.
Is Andy gonna be there?
Wait a minute.
Of course.
Is Andy gonna be there?
He's in town, so yes.
Is there a party? You didn't invite us?
No,
we never get the invites.
I'm baking ribs too. It's gonna be great.
I can't go anywhere. I'll be in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, it's a good time of year.
We're on the road. We're in Brooklyn and Boston, and then we got the All-Star break.
Yeah. Stacey finally gets a little vacation.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know, Mark.
Nationwide. Go ahead and tell the folks how they can
contact
with Angel Water.
Get in touch with Angel, get a free water test, and with that water test, you'll get, of course, the results of that test, see if there's any chromium-6 in your water. And you'll get a sampler of Stacey King's signature hot sauce. So call 847-382-7800, 847-382-7800, and tell them that the King sent you.
I'm not sure when the show is going to get up on YouTube, but if it gets out on Friday afternoon, Stacey's bobblehead night is Friday evening on February 6th, and we're looking forward to that. The Talking Bobblehead version 2, the first 1,500 fans at Now Arena will receive that lovely replica spitting image of Stacey King.
And what's he holding?
Sometimes, little Stacey likes to say a few things. You like to say something, little Stacey?
Yes, for all the ladies out there, I just want to say, come see me on Friday night, baby. And
you can do a lot with the bobblehead, ladies. You can do a lot with the bobblehead. You know what I mean? A lot. I can go any place you need me to go. You know what I mean? Wink, wink.
Wow, the editing folks at CHSN now super busy. They're trying to figure out how we're going to end this show. We got to edit the whole last segment.
A clip of Barry White, baby, huh?
And again, I'm bald headed. I got a nice little head right here.
Yeah.
Holding that hot sauce.
That was a long day, man. There's a lot you can do with this little bobblehead.
It's hard to tell you two guys apart.
Yeah, now look at, but I'm a little bit sexier though. So.
Out of the town.
Oh, he just gave me a look. Hey man, hey, let's keep it. Hey,
Stacey King and little Stacey.
Like little Penny Anthony.
Everybody needs a little Stacey in their life.
Yeah, forget about Penny and little Penny. We got Stacey now. Stacey and little Stacey on the prowl.
Looking forward to that, baby.
All right, Stacey King and Now Arena. And we look forward to our next episode of Gimme the Hot Sauce. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy the new look Bulls. Until we meet again.
Drive home safe in Chicago. Beat.
Oh! He didn't come for the massage. He came for the facial.
Don't shoot him. Does anybody know how to post videos to Facebook?
There's a block party. Why didn't get the invitation? That's a huge three. Mustard. Lonzo left alone. Able to swerve, bend that corner. That's the last time I'm going to see it. Williams straight on. Giants.